So for more on all this now, Trump transition team co-chair, former Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard is here. Going to play in a moment here. The director of FEMA was with Brett last night, but President Trump is well familiar with Florida. Is he doing something now before this storm hits? Let's start there.
President Trump is continuing to do what we've seen him do in the wake of Hurricane Helene, reaching out and trying to provide support directly for those who need it the most. It's heartbreaking, Bill and Dana, just to see those who are still trying to recover in the wake of Helene. Now they're in Florida, recognizing that there is a even bigger hurricane that's headed their way. I think one of the most inspiring things and hopeful things that's come in the wake of these disasters is how many of our fellow Americans are stepping up to help fill the gap in the federal government and in some cases the state government's failure to meet the needs of people in these communities. I was there in North Carolina a couple of days ago, and really I can't put into words just the devastation and the sense of loss that people feel there, where their vehicles, their homes, their small businesses, their jobs literally swept away and gone in an instant. I was asking a local mayor there of a town with a population of less than 500 people, what about insurance? And they said most people don't have flood insurance because this is not an area that's prone to flooding in their lifetimes. And yet here they said this is a 500-year flood that they experienced. I've been raising money through my nonprofit, We Must Protect. We're deploying supplies there to North Carolina, chainsaws, Starlink setups, generators, fuel. And of course, we're going to continue to be here for our fellow Americans in Florida as well. They need help now. And unfortunately, what I saw there in North Carolina was a reminder of what we experienced in Maui last year in the wake of those historic fires. FEMA was saying, we're here, we're on the ground. But what I saw in Hawaii was they were in the town, in the city. They were not out in the communities that needed their help the most. I heard the same from these residents of these very rural communities in North Carolina. They don't have FEMA knocking on their door. They don't have FEMA approving contracts to go and get people to bring the excavators to start clearing that debris to prevent another major disaster from happening should they get more rainfall coming through. The scale of this is just impossible to convey in words. The number one message that people shared with me and asked me to share with others was, please don't forget us. This is going to be a long road ahead for all of them, and we've got to continue to stand with them, whether or not our government, the Harris-Biden administration, is doing their job or not.
Tulsi, last night, the FEMA director was on Special Report with Bret Baier. Watch here.
We have been on the ground since before Hurricane Helene hit Florida and before it crossed over North Carolina. And what I would say is just because somebody doesn't see a person in a FEMA shirt doesn't mean that we're not in the area. The entire federal family is there to support this response. We've been there. We will continue to be there as long as it's needed to make sure we're meeting everybody's needs.
Do you think FEMA needs to be enlarged?
I think FEMA needs to better use its resources and be able to cut through the bureaucratic red tape that gets in the way of delivering direct response to people there. They are not good stewards of our taxpayer dollars. We've seen that. I've seen that in disaster after disaster, where you have FEMA literally keeping their employees and workers in the Four Seasons and five-star hotels, while people who have been impacted by these disasters are quite literally homeless or staying in tents or finding places to stay in shelters. This is a major problem with FEMA, where they're saying, oh, well, we've got this covered. It's just simply not the case in my experience in so many of these disasters that I've seen, that I've been on the ground for. They're not providing the support for the people who need it most. People are being rejected even when they're applying for the $750 of assistance that Vice President Harris announced there in Charlotte, North Carolina. The needs are far greater than FEMA is providing. They're focused too much on their bureaucracy and not actually focused on those who need it the most.
All right, Ted Budd is from North Carolina. He was on with Sean last night. This is how he characterizes the response thus far.
This has been characterized by lack of speed, lack of coordination, and misplaced priorities all over. But when I talk to the boots on the ground, literally the boots on the ground today, 18th Airborne Corps, some out of Kentucky from the 101st, some out of Fort Liberty from 82nd, they were ready. Like Senator Tillis said, they were ready day one. But again, there was a lot of bureaucratic hand-wringing at the top that didn't let these folks go to work.
Your program, We Must Protect, is raising a lot of money, well over $300,000 so far. So we hope to get those numbers higher, and we'll find out what happens next.
Thank you.
Tulsi, thank you for your time.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.